that's the thing with this field. It's always like you're always looking at the next big thing.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, we did this, but what's next?
Hi everyone. For this episode, I will interview Ankit Tomar, a senior data analyst for T-Mobile. And Ankit, thank you so much for meeting with me today. And for this first question, I just want to ask, can you describe your role at T-Mobile and the types of data projects you work on?
Absolutely. Well, first off, yeah, thank you for having me on. Yeah, this is really exciting, and I love talking about my experiences with T-Mobile. So my most recent role as a senior data analyst was in product management. So I was the liaison between product managers, executives, and like our engineering team, and working in partnership primarily with our product managers. We'd be placed on a specific product. So I was on international roaming specifically. If you have questions about that, I can dive a little bit deeper into it. But essentially, they would have like their hypotheses, their theories of like new feature releases for the product to generate revenue, or bring profit to the company. And I would take that hypothesis or that problem statement and kind of look into, we would use Snowflake as one of our primary platforms to extract data, and understand what type of modeling we needed to do. If it was like descriptive, predictive modeling, looking out in the future, forecasting, or other types of data modeling techniques. And I would look at what data is available to us today. And sometimes, product managers, they have all these like grand theories and like way they can like do things, but some of it's like not possible today. So we'd go back and forth and have conversations and have meetings of what's possible, and how we can bring these features into the market. So within like Snowflake or like Databricks, I don't know if you're familiar with that, we'd use those platforms to extract the data and create like central data repositories, um, and give them like a potential revenue number of how much this would generate, and whether it would bring a positive impact to the business, and whether it would be like worthwhile for executives to make decisions on this. So that was one thing. Another product I also worked on was subscriber protection, which anything like, for example, your phone, like you get scam texts or like scam likely calls, we'd have an app that would block those scam calls, so you're not getting, all these texts and calls or whatever. And then another one was also partner products, which is like streaming services. So anything from like social media platforms to like Netflix, Hulu, Amazon Prime. And then I'd also work with like external vendors, a part of those companies, to make sure like we have optimized resolution. So they're getting like 1080p, or even higher potentially. And then their speeds are, or their throughput is where it needs to be, so that they have a really good customer experience. So that was my most recent role. I've had previous roles as well within T-Mobile, because this was my first job out of college, and I started off as an intern, and then I got hired on full time, and was an associate engineer within network technology, and then transitioned to senior data analyst product management. So if you want to learn a lot about the previous roles as well, I'm more than happy to talk about that. But yeah.
That's very cool. And I'm
Mhm.
wondering, like, when you say products, do you mean like iPads, cell phones, like that sort of thing, or like what specific to T-Mobile is that referring to?
Yeah, for sure. So yes and no, because there are teams that work on those products like iPads, iPhones, and then
Right.
there is a cool product called Kids Sync, which is like a watch that we have, and it's like, not giving a kid like a phone to use, because
Mhm.
that could be, it could go down like a trickling path, I guess.
Yeah.
So a Kids Sync watch like keeps, you see your location for your kids, and like they can like call your parents and stuff like that just through the watch, and which is a cool product. But for our team specifically, we like for international roaming, the product that we had primarily was a data pass. So a data pass is like instead of so mainly like before when you would travel internationally, you could get like a new phone when you travel
Mhm.
internationally, or like a physical SIM card that you put in and get like an international number. But through T-Mobile with the data pass, you could purchase one. We have three types of passes. One's a 1 day pass, which gives you like 512 megabytes of data, which isn't like a ton. You could probably go through that within a couple hours, really. But really, why you get it for like just a day is for the calling aspect, so you can make unlimited
Mhm.
calls without being charged extra. And the next one is like a 10-day pass, which is 5 gigabytes of data, and then a 30-day pass, which is 15 gigabytes of data. So it just depends like how long you're traveling for and what your you need for your needs and stuff. But yeah, for the data pass, we would look at it and see what our customer pain points are and what features we can release for it. For example, we wanted to see like who can already internationally, and we realized that if you're the primary account holder, for example, like our parents or like a legal
Mhm.
guardian or something, they're the primary account holder and you're on your family account. But if you're like yourself or like me, we're like studying abroad, for example, you don't have the ability to purchase your own. You have to go through your parents. So we wanted to see if we can make it accessible to secondary account holders, where they would like, if when they travel, they're on the plane, they land, they get a text, they like, hey, like, do you want to purchase a pass? And they would click on the link, and it'd be like super easy and simplified process.
Mhm.
Right now, it's not like that. It has to go through all through the primary account holder. Or if like your pass expires, or if you use up all your data, and you want to get another pass because you're there for 20 days, so you want to get two 10-day passes. So the first 10 days
Mhm.
is up, you want to get a second one. The ability to do that right now is not super easy. And then we also look at like what countries people travel to the most. And right now for like T-Mobile, obviously it's like Mexico and Canada. So a part of a lot of our plans, we have Mexico and Canada included. And then like European countries that people travel to the most, and see like what packages we can create for those types of
Mhm.
people to make it easy. And then we're using the data that I'm looking at in Snowflake within like a couple different data sets, like a roaming data set to understand like roaming usage, and then also like a data pass data set to understand like how many people are buying data passes and what types of passes they're buying, so we can join these two data sets to really understand customer perspective. Yeah.
That's
So
very
those are the
cool.
types of products that we work on
Yeah.
primarily. And then with like partner products, um, it's like, yeah, like Hulu would be
Mhm.
a product, like Netflix, Amazon Prime, etc. So not like tangible products that you would see like at a T-Mobile store per se,
Mhm.
um, but more like applications that you would have on your phone, or like
Right.
we have, yeah. Mhm.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And you're using data to like expand your customer base and like better serve the needs of
Yes,
people? Okay.
absolutely. And it wasn't always like that at T-Mobile. Like for example, in product management, I started this role a year ago,
Mhm.
and they didn't have a data team within product management. They would have like theories and hypotheses, and they would just like go,
Right.
with their gut feeling, and
Right.
create a decision off that, which isn't like obviously the best way to
Mhm.
do it. And then
Mhm.
they created this data team within product management, so that you have an internal team and you have internal tools within that, and it's like easy to have conversations when it's a part of your own organization versus T-Mobile as a big corporate company. If you have
Mhm.
to submit, we use a tool called Jira,
Mhm.
which you submit like tickets on, and those tickets can get lost in the system because there's so many, and other teams take on higher priority items, so your data requests don't always get solved and it'll be like months and months on end, and then you're not really impacting the business. So that's why they created this, within it. So it's fairly new.
Yeah.
And within the platforms, like there was only like a certain amount of data available to us, like a couple of years ago, but now like there's so much with new technology becoming available, like more data is becoming available, which is why we've had to transition from like older platforms where processing times like Hive or Hadoop, platforms that processing times are really slow because they can't handle as much data. So then now we're using like Databricks or like Snowflake to use it, and run times are super fast when you like query Python scripts or like SQL scripts. I could run within minutes, which is really nice. So you're not like spending a ton of tedious and your work hours like doing that, and you can focus on like more decision making
Yeah.
aspects of it.
That all sounds a lot more efficient.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it's a lot better.
Okay. Now I want to ask, like, zooming out a little bit,
Yeah.
how does T-Mobile use data analysis to improve customer experience and network performance beyond anything that you just mentioned? Is there anything like as a whole?
Yeah, absolutely. So, in terms of like we have every quarter we have like an all hands meeting, which is a quarterly like finance report. And in terms of like finance, like specifically in business impacts, like out of like the technical aspects of things, how we use data analytics and analysis to improve the business is through understanding like we have our EBITDA or like our cash flow and also our customer growth. And then we also look at churn. Like churn is a big one when customer retention and understanding like how many customers we've gained within that quarter or lost and why we've lost those customers and also why we've gained those customers too. And we use like a lot of sentiment analysis, so like social analysis and putting out you know surveys and forums out there to understand why people are joining T-Mobile, why they're leaving T-Mobile and stuff. And we use these quarterly reports to plan for the next quarter or 2 quarters ahead at least, so we can see continued growth, and that's like tangible, and like kind of in front of you, like changes within the business and growth that we can measure with it. Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I figured it might have to do with analyzing like customers going in and out, but it's cool that you said sentiment
Yeah.
analysis. And yeah, that makes sense. I think that answered the question.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah. So like sentiment analysis is super big. Like when I was in network technology, we wouldn't deal with sentiment that much because it's more network related. Like we had metrics to study our network experience from a customer standpoint. It was called like just like it sounds, network experience, which next. So anything like customer experience specifically, we'd like label as X. So this was like a next score that we had, which is out of 10, and we would have various network metrics. Like for example, dropped calls is like a common one, or like your home coverage, which usually how we like that is generally from like midnight 1 a.m. to like 5 a.m. because usually that's where you're gonna probably sleep for the night.
Yeah.
So like that's your home base, and would measure like home coverage, like what is your experience like when you're at home, and then would also have everywhere coverage, which is from the rest of the hours, which is like 5 a.m. to 8 p.m. usually, and everywhere coverage is usually at like your workplace or like school or something like that, and understanding that. And if you're like below a certain threshold, you would lose a point. So like 7 to 10, we would call them influencers. 5 to 7 would be like at risk. They're like a target group. And then below that would call them demoters or something like that. And they'd be like, those are the ones that are likely to churn. And so those bottom two groups are our focus group and how we can optimize the network and improve it, so we don't lose those customers. And that's another part that we like look at on our quarterly reports.
Because I remember, like my middle school had terrible connection. We'd always be asking each other, like, "Oh, what network do you have?" Because just
Yeah,
compare the
yeah, that's a
amount of
common
connection
thing.
that everyone had.
Yeah, yeah, no, exactly. And people are like Verizon. Verizon's like so much better in this area, like AT&T and
Yeah,
stuff. But yeah.
yeah. So to piggyback off of that,
Uh-huh.
what are some of the biggest data challenges in the telecom industry? I imagine it might be like privacy related, or is it like connection?
Yeah, yeah, definitely privacy
Mhm.
related because we partner with well, not really partner, but the government agency like the SEC for finance and stuff. We partner with the FCC. And the drawbacks with the FCC is they have so technically how like the big three work is you have like a portion of the network that you can farm essentially or refarm, and there's spectrum and they have auctions with the
Mhm.
FCC. So we're all battling and fighting for spectrum and capacity within the United States, and to have like an upper hand on the other companies and stuff. So that's like one drawback. There's still, within our data sets, like we're not able to access like certain like actually let me take a step back. So the engineering teams and the business teams, I've been on like both sides, and both sides don't really talk to each other very well. So like if you need to solve like a business problem but you need engineering data for it, like you don't have access to that engineering data, so you need to like potentially have a connection or like someone on the inside that can help you out. But if you don't, like it could be like months on end while you're waiting for this, and that's impacting the business in a negative way, which is unfortunate. So, and also one other drawback is data integrity.
Mhm.
So what I mean by data integrity is like knowing that the data is accurate, like everything that you see in front of your screen and that you're analyzing like maybe not right, because there be two different data sets that are very similar, but they have different data within them. And then you have to solve like who is the owner of which data set within like the within the engineers, and talk to
Mhm.
them and understand the discrepancy between the two and which one is accurate, which one's not. So you have to kind of, cross your T's, dot your I's, and really be thorough and detail oriented while you're going through this. Because if you're using one data set and you run with that, and then you present that to executives, and then executives find out later like that is so wrong, like, and they can't make like accurate decisions off of it.
Yeah.
It could really hurt you in the long run. So, yeah, and then there's still like data that's like not really available to us today, like I was mentioning before.
Mhm.
Like we have like our telecom data and within the industry, but if we need external data, like for example, we partner with like AWS a lot, um, and like Akamai and Facebook and Apple too, and they
Mhm.
have privacy concerns too, and they're not as willing to make that data available for us. Like Apple is like so difficult to work with, because yeah, they're super private. And I mean, like between like Android and Apple phones, they're not very compatible. um, and if you
Yeah.
have one or the other, like it's hard to talk to someone like on an iPhone. I mean, not super hard, but like yeah,
Mhm.
like not as easy or efficient as it could be.
You're right. For sure. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, data integrity, all of that. What you were just saying about like working with like, yeah, I think that's very important, very challenging. Do you see that improving at all like in the near future or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we're always optimizing, and
Mhm.
like we have trusted sources, like just like, you're doing any research paper, writing an essay, you have to look at credible sources and like trusted sources that you value and stuff. So like very similarly, like we only use like data sets that are trusted and reliable, so we can make our decisions, and they're useful right now. And like if we see like we can add fields like columns or add data or like make certain calculations, and we keep improving it over time. So it's like it's a slow process for sure, but it's like it's improving and getting better. It's not perfect, and with like artificial intelligence and like generative AI and chat GPT and like Copilot and stuff, it's made it a lot easier because we've had like our data scientists. I haven't worked on these projects personally, but you might be interested in this. With like our data scientists, they've created internal like GPT tools, like we call it TGPT, which is like kind of corny, but we just added T in front because of T-Mobile. Um, and like they use various sources like within our data. Like for example, they use like a platform with like Snowflake, Databricks, and make connections with those tools. So you can just have like a search bar and be like, hey, like I need this, this, and this. And it'll give you like your trusted sources. So you're not having to do as much research and go through it. So our lives are becoming easier in terms of that aspect. And one more thing I want to mention is duplicity. Like there's a lot of duplicates within the data too that you got to look at. So one is like if you're trying to get a customer count, just general like customer count, and you want to look at postpaid customers that have a plan, not prepaid, and then what plan they're on and split it by that, and you want to do like a distinct count by this, you could look at it and then you could be like wow, like this number is like twice as high as it should be in like other reports that I've seen. Let me dig a little bit deeper. And then you see like, oh, like on this day we recorded this customer and that record twice. So then you got to talk like we got to remove these duplicates and make sure we're doing like a distinct count on the back end, so we only see one record, like a one-to-one relationship.
Okay, yeah. Okay, so shifting a little bit, and this is less about T-Mobile, more just like me wanting your insight. What skills or tools do you find like most valuable in your work, and what advice would you give like aspiring like data scientists or data analysts?
Absolutely. Yeah. So like tools and skills, like I'll talk from like a data analytics perspective first, and then like a data science perspective next. You gotta like soft skills. You gotta be a problem solver, like be able to take like problem statements and like dissect it and understand like what you need to get, who you need to talk to, and also why you're doing this, to understand that. And like a framework that I use that I really like, it's called HTEIP, which is really cool. Like it's like first is hypothesis, the problem statement, the next is data data mining. So like going through the data, like sourcing through it, learning it, I think is a really important aspect of like, if you don't understand your data, you're not going to be able to make decisions off of it. And the next one is like exploration, insights, and then presenting it. So like it takes like all components of like being a problem solver, a decision maker, detail oriented, you're technically savvy, as well as you can present and be in front of an audience, whether it's like non-technical and like you kind of have to, layman's term, like dumb it down a little bit and not use technical terms, or if it's like executives and they just want to know results and they just want to know numbers and like how they can, make a decision off this. They don't care about anything else. Like if you, because also like executives don't have time, and they don't want like any wasted time because they're like in back to back meetings. So you have to be very specific with your verbiage. And if you take too long and you don't get to your point, then it's like, wow, okay, now, we didn't get anything solved. And then also like technical stakeholders where like they care about like, oh, like how do you get to this problem? Like what tools did you use? What like
Mhm.
can I see your scripts and your querying? So that's one aspect of it from the soft skills perspective. But from like a technical tools, I used this is a really popular. It's becoming popular more than SQL these days, and I had no experience like how to use it going into my internship. We use Azure Data Explorer, so like ADX for short. It's a Microsoft product,
Okay.
and it's called use KQL on it, so it's called Custo, and the structure of it is a little bit different. And I would say this is like if you look into Custo and just go on like Microsoft and like
Mhm.
go through their tutorials, I think that's a really important skill to use because a lot of companies are starting to use it. And for example, if you do want to work for Microsoft one day, they do use it a bunch, just to learn,
I
and
would
like it
imagine.
doesn't take too long. Yeah, yeah. And then also like understanding like Databricks platform. I mean, use like basic like SQL querying on
Mhm.
that. And then Python scripts, like you can do that on there. But I think Python is super important, and that's like something I'm still learning. I wouldn't say like I'm super skilled at it, like probably an intermediate level, but I think that sets you apart from interviewers or like from other applicants, like having like Python and maybe even like a little R experience. R is a little outdated, and a lot of companies don't use it as much for like regression analysis or like linear analysis and other aspects. Python is a lot better for like data visualization. Um, so yeah, I think that's super important. And the platforms that we use primarily, like I said, was Azure Data Explorer, Databricks, and then we transitioned to Snowflake. But if you know like general SQL and Python, you can be
Mhm.
able to use those platforms and be able to use those skills like super easily. And that's yeah, that's from a data analytics perspective. From a data science perspective, like machine learning algorithms, learning how to train models um, is super important, and learning how to use like Microsoft Copilot or like generative AI and open AI so you can implement that in your work, which sets you apart. Like our data scientist on our team, his work is really open ended and is a lot research based than what I do. Like I do a little bit of research, but all he does is just research, like go on
Mhm.
a bunch of different like sources like on the web and like learn as much as you can and learn like
Mhm.
use like external practices. Like when ChatGPT, the first model came into the market, kind of leverage that and use their algorithms to implement that within our network and then optimize it and go through that. So project and what else did he do? He's worked on a couple other research projects that I can't put my finger on, but especially like learning how to, ML and learning those algorithms is super important. And for like aspiring data scientists like yourself, I would like this is super cool that you're doing this and like this interview. I think like talk to a bunch of people like in the industry and like
Yeah.
network as much as you can. I think that's the most important part because nowadays like yeah, it's super tough to get a job,
Yeah.
especially like out of college, like at an entry level, or even like with all the layoffs that have been happening in the corporate world. You're fighting with or competing with people that like have more experience and are like mid-level or like senior level tiers. So like um yeah, talking to people that are working these companies in the industry, so you create like a network. So like I know like cold calling doesn't work like a ton through LinkedIn, and it's kind of like a weird concept. Honestly, I don't respond to a lot of people on LinkedIn when they like cold call me. I think it's kind of weird, but like reach out to a bunch of people that you know so you have like that foot in the door, because then like if you're applying to those companies, you can have them as a referral, and they look at
Mhm.
like internal referral like applicants a lot more than they do when you're just in the larger pool and applying through like LinkedIn or like Indeed or like these other aspects. And also just stay in touch and with like how with the trends and how data science is like progressing, or data analytics is progressing. So like technology is ever evolving, and there's more like tools that are becoming available, like more efficient, more startups that are, you know, their product is this tool. So learning all of these. So yeah, so you're with the trends. And I think that's like the most important thing that I've learned from my dad too, is like he started off as like a polymer engineer, but he is also in data science. And the thing is like he loves to like read and like keep up with everything. And I think that's
Mhm.
like what's kept him in the industry, and like how he's held his job is just being adaptable,
Mhm.
um, and just being a learner and like absorbing a bunch of knowledge to stay up with like all the younger people that are in the industry coming up. So yeah, yeah, that's what I recommend.
Yeah, I mean, I I do like understand, like obviously in this industry, if this is what I want to go into, then I'm gonna have to always be like figuring out what the next new thing is. And
Yeah,
I mean, technology is always changing. So
exactly.
um,
Yeah,
that's that's a good. I mean, congrats to your dad for figuring that out. My mom does that a lot too, and I've always envied that. And I really
that's
try to
cool.
like,
Huh?
take on
I
those
definitely learned from
habits.
them. Like I'm sure you learned from your mom, and like yeah, same thing. I
Hmm.
learned from my parents to
Yeah,
how to like stay afloat, essentially.
exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, so one last question.
Okay.
What trends in data science excite you the most for like over the next 5 years?
Um, That's a great question. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, like kind of overall with what we've been talking about, with, data science, like the evolution of using AI within the company, like we've seen like a first glance at it, and it's improved a lot and optimized.
Mhm,
Uh, there's a there's a funny saying that T-Mobile like says, it's like it kind of goes along the lines of like digital first AI enabled company. There's a little bit more to that, but essentially like when we first heard that, we're like, that's just like slogan, that's just, those are just like buzzwords that we're trying to use to like,
mhm,
make everyone like feel excited. But like, what does it mean to be like digital first and AI enabled? And really what it is, and the evolution of like ChatGPT is like using we have two components that we like study, like how our work, like what kind of work we're doing and how we're performing. It's like OpEx and CapEx,
mhm,
like so like operational expenses and capital expenses, and like where our time is like most used. And right now it's like on OpEx, which is like the operational side, which is like not super efficient because you're using a lot of your time to like query, build these scripts, like, and that's very time consuming. You're building like hundreds of lines of code. And then you're like, wow, like we had a 1 month deliverable, and like I spent like 2 to 3, I mean, like for a bigger project, like 2 to 3 weeks on this. Now I only have
mhm,
like 1 week to make a decision off of this. Otherwise, we're
mhm,
gonna have to push that deadline back. But like Chat GPT and Copilot help with that aspect. And like you could, put in the search bar and like search like exactly what you need, and you get it. And they'll have like, yeah, like they'll have like basic scripts right now that'll help you like solve it, and it'll be like a starting block, and then you can improve off that and build on it. And like it won't be exactly what you need,
mhm,
but that's kind of like the evolution where I see it going, is like you can eventually get exactly what you need,
mhm,
and it can build those scripts for you. And like people are like, oh, that's going to take away from like the coding aspect and the technical aspect of it, and like like now like I'll feel like less useful or something like that. And like I understand that perspective of it, but at the same time, like no, not really, because like you're trying to impact the business and like improve the business. And like as like for sure a software engineer might think that way, um or maybe even like a computer scientist may think that way, but like as
Mhm.
like in the data analytics, like data science field, we're decision makers like overall, and we want to help like improve the business and bring like our work brings impact, tangible
Mhm.
impact to what we're doing. So it'll make like our lives easier, and you can, get that script, query it, get the data, and of course, like you'll have to look through the data, but then you can build like your, data visualizations, your
Mhm.
trends, and be able to present that more faster paced. And I think that's the evolution that I see it going, which yeah, will just make our lives easier, and which is nice. So and of course there'll be like um, more tools that will become available, that like for machine learning algorithms, you could use those tools, and it'll be faster times, and you'll be able to train the models a lot easier, which will help too. And to lastly, to bring back to like telecom base specifically,
Mhm.
like we're in the 5G evolution in the 5G world right now, but like we're already looking at 6G and seeing how we can like refarm and make that type of technology like available. Like I know, I don't know how much T-Mobile is working on it per se. I know some people have their um, hands in that. But I read like a story a while ago when we weren't even thinking about like 6G that much. Like Japan was already working on it, and they're already trying to get it rolled out as soon as possible. So like that's the thing with this field. It's always like you're always looking at the next big thing.
Mhm.
Like, yeah, we did this, but what's next? Like
Yeah, that's
what
really
can we do?
exciting.
Yeah. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see where the field goes. Yeah, it'll be cool. And you're gonna be jumping in like at a really cool time where
Yay.
yeah. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow, that makes me really
Yeah.
excited. And especially your sort of thing about like the computer scientist, the software engineer, like maybe doesn't appreciate all these shortcuts, but like as like a
Yeah.
data analyst, you would appreciate like more resources and like more tools just to like get faster, like more reliable outcomes. Like that's a cool thing to think about. Makes me excited.
That's cool. Yeah, absolutely. No, it's pretty sweet. Yeah. I like it because I mean like yeah, like software engineers love the back end, like they
Mhm.
love the full stack like work of it and coding and stuff. And that's still like that's not gonna go away. It's still gonna be there. Like I have friends at Google that just work on that stuff like all day, every day, and they have code reviews
Mhm.
and go through multiple like evolutions, and then they put out that code and stuff. But yeah, for us, like yeah, like it's oh yeah, it's just like you said, all about the resources, all about the tools, and
Yeah.
all about like decision making and like what impacts can we bring. And that's what I also like of course, like a lot of companies need software engineers, computer scientists, but specifically
Mhm.
like data analysts and like data scientists, like every company needs it. Like
Mhm.
like most companies, well, if you want to be like valued, um, and also like see growth within the company, you need to be a data first and data
Mhm.
driven. And then yeah, you're gonna always need data analysts and data scientists. So there's like so many jobs available for us, which is pretty sweet.
Yeah, yeah. The world
Yeah.
is becoming more increasingly data driven. So
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that was all. And thank you
Cool,
so
cool.
much, Ankit. I
Absolutely. Yeah.
really
Thank you.
appreciate your time today.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Have a great rest of your day. And